Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Chris, and in today's video I'm going to be trying out some new products. I've got some stamps, some molds from I.O.D. I've got some rub-on transfers from I.O.D. that I'll be testing out, and I've also got some paint from DIY, and I got the DIY product in the paint. I got that from Sammy at Unicorn Dust Designs, and I'm looking so forward to testing everything out. And I hope you enjoy the video and stick around to the end. All right, let's get to it. This color is Ameraucana, and I've not even opened them yet, so let's do that. I'm going to set that aside for a second. I don't have any kind of slick stuff to make a smooth surfaces kind of sticky to the paint, so I'm hoping using some fine grit sandpaper is going to help. So I'm just going to go over this.
But after painting it, I really think you could skip this step. Just use your best judgment.
I'm just going to take some rubbing alcohol and I'm just going to spray this down. All right, so it says to stir the paint because this paint does have a sealer in it. And I'm kind of used to using paint like this. The Heirloom Traditions paint that I've used in some of my videos is also a one and done paint. So the first time I opened it, I didn't expect a liquidy. This is actually about the same consistency, so I was prepared to know it was liquidy. And also Sammy let me know when I ordered them. She's such a sweet lady. All right, and I did go ahead and buy the DIY paintbrush. I also picked this up from Sammy at Unicorn Dust Designs. So I'm going to try this paintbrush out. And I am definitely expecting this to need 2 to 3 coats, because it's such a liquidy paint. And I know that was the case with the Heirloom Traditions. That color is gorgeous.
Okay, and I've got some small brushes that I'm going to use to go around the bottom of that rim, and I am not going to paint the rim itself.
I love how this paint just kind of glides. Oh, I just love that. Now I am just going over this very lightly because this paint does not need a lot of pressure. All right, I'm gonna see how well this dries down with my heat gun on low setting.
As I was drying it down, I was just looking to see if it cracked like chalk paint, and there was no cracking.
All right, and I'm just gonna apply this second coat.
And once I got the back dried, it's time to work on the front, and I'm just going to do the same exact process, making sure not to paint around that top rim. And if I did get any on the rim, I would just take a clean paper towel and just kind of scrape it off of there before it had a chance to really dry in.
Okay, so this is after 2 coats. Oh, I am loving this color. Now I'm gonna say this back could use an extra coat, but I think the front side looks good. Okay, that is dry. It is looking absolutely gorgeous at this point in time. Next, I'm going to test out the rub-on transfers from I.O.D. And I picked up this packet from Vonda at the Painted Heirlooms. And I will put her link in the description box. And I will also put Sammy at unicorndustdesign.com, her link in the description box. So this one is called the Flora Parisiensis. Parisiensis. I don't know how to say it. I'm not French. There it is. And I fell in love with these flowers right here. So this is what I'm going to work on.
And for a minute there, I was thinking that the image might be too big, so I just decided to go ahead and just cut it out. And when I cut it out, I did tend to get a little close to the image and kind of laying it back down just to see where I can cut those stems off. And once I got that all trimmed out, I just peel off the back, and when you lay it down, you just kind of want to hover over the top of where you're placing it, and don't make contact until you are ready to commit, because it is sticky. And I kind of started where it was rounded because I wanted that image to kind of go up on the curved edge. And so I would also make some little slits to help that image lay where it curved and where it kind of rounded at the top of that tray.
And I have fingernails, so I'm just kind of rubbing them into there with my fingernails.
And then the transfers come with this little plastic stick to help you rub them into the surface. So that's what I'm using here. And I just work my way down to the bottom of the tray. And these transfers were just very easy to work with. And I absolutely love how this tray came out. It is my favorite today. And you guys just let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. I really want to know which one ends up being your favorite. And I appreciate all the comments that I get. I try to answer every one of them. I do read them all. And again, I love reading your guys' comments. It really keeps me moving along. And once you get that transfer pulled off, they do recommend that on the back side of that transfer sheet where it's nice and smooth, that you just go over the image, making sure it's burnished in really well. And just when I thought I was finished, I grabbed some gold leaf rub and buff, and just in a few spots I added some of that gold, and then I would kind of brush very lightly around that rim, just allowing a little bit of gold to show through.
Now I'm just going to seal it, and I think that is absolutely stunning. Gorgeous. Okay, so I am going to work on this box. I need something to put over my toilet so I can put, like, you know, some of that toilet spray and things that we might need to get to immediately, air freshener, that kind of stuff. You know what I'm talking about. I'm going to remove this twine. I think I'm going to go ahead and reuse it. I don't have any as thick, and I'm not sure if I'm going to reuse it or not, so I'm just going to remove it without damaging it and just set them aside.
And you can see that the previous owners had done their own little DIY on it. So I'm just going to grab a sandpaper and just go over that bottom side just to lighten up that paint. That way it doesn't bleed through into my paint.
Okay, so in this one, I am going to be testing out for the first time the DIY paint. Just the regular mineral paint and in vintage linen.
And I started painting it using this cheap Dollar Tree chip brush, and I just realized I didn't like it as much, so I decided to go ahead and go back to the brush that I had purchased from DIY brand, and I liked the way that one made that paint go on a lot better. It was just a lot smoother. And in comparison with the brush and the two paints, I do like the paintbrush better with the all-in-one paint versus the regular mineral paint. But it could have something to do with the material that I am putting this paint on. The surface is a little bit rougher, so that could possibly have something to do with it.
I will say one thing, I like this paint for the lack of odor it puts out, because I don't smell anything, you know, like you do with Waverly chalk paint or Rust-Oleum chalk paint. It's got a smell to it. This doesn't have any smell that I notice, and that's usually when I'm drying it down is when I can really smell the odor the paint has.
Okay, time to move on to the sides, and I am just going to do the sides and the top rim of the sides. I am not going to paint the inside of the tray, but I did go ahead and give it a light sanding because it did have some splintering. And then I just took a damp rag thinking I would go ahead and wet distress it. And at the top it did, and around the edges, it did seem to come off fairly easy, but just too slow for me. Too much pressure. I'm impatient. So I just moved on to a sander, and I just sanded along the edges. I sanded along the sides and the top of that rim just to give it more of a rustic look. Then I've just got these little wooden cups that I always pick up from Hobby Lobby. That's my go-to place for things like this. And then I'm taking some antiquing wax by Waverly, and I'm just going to go over those wooden cups, which are going to become the feet of our tray. And then just taking some of that clear grip Gorilla glue, I am going to attach those pieces to each corner of the tray, and then I'm just going to let them sit and dry, and it didn't take too long, maybe 20 minutes. Okay, so I've got this mold here from I.O.D, and I believe it's called the Olive Crest mold. I hope that's right. If it's not, I'll put it up here on the screen. And I'm going to take some cornstarch, and then I end up changing my mind on which which design I wanted to use in that mold, which I end up using the two end ones, and then just the little, I'm not sure what it's called. I'm not really good with all these French words, but you'll see when I put it on. And then I'm just going to take some DOS brand clay and just press them into the molds. And these molds have this little micro rim around each design, and that made it so much easier to push that clay out of the image and give it a nice clean trim, if you will. And then I'm just going to flip that tray on over and let gravity assist and release the molds. And this first mold I'm removing is the one I couldn't think of the name to. I didn't put any cornstarch in there, so it was a little rough to remove. But the other two came out very easily. And then I'm just going to set those molds on top of that tray, getting an idea of where I want to glue them. And when I glue them down, the molds are going to still be wet, and I'm going to use the Type Bond Quick and Thick and just apply that. I'm just going to use my fingers and kind of smooth it out, smooth that glue out. And this stuff did dry very quickly. If I got any glue outside those molds, I would just wipe it up really quick. That way it didn't have a chance to dry. And then I'm just going to take the smaller mold. I believe it's called the Fleur de Lis, something like that. And I'm just going to put it on the back side. And now I'm going to take the color Blue Hills, that's in a DIY cottage color, and I am going to stir it up very, very well. This was taking too long, so I put the lid back on it and I shook it, and that made it mix a lot better. And then I'm just going to take a small paintbrush and I'm going to apply that to the mold we just placed down, and I'm going to try to avoid getting it on the white surface that I had painted. I do end up getting a little bit here and there, but afterwards I end up taking some of the DIY white wax and going over the molds and then kind of concentrating where I may have gotten some of that blue down on the white paint, and that disguised it pretty well. All right, and since this is my first time using that white wax, I really didn't know how much or how heavy to put it on. I started out kind of heavy, wiped it back, and then I went back over it with just a very little bit on my brush, and that seemed to work a little bit better for me personally. And then once I got that the way I liked it, I would wipe back maybe just a hair off of the surface, but that blue Hills color is so pretty, and hopefully one day I'll be able to remodel my bathroom and this tray will look so much better in it. So when I show you the reveal, don't judge the wallpaper, because that was here when we moved in, and yes, it is going to come down eventually. And the next step, I'm just going to take some DIY clear wax, and I am going to go over that tray completely. I'm going to put it around the paint, all over the feet, the inside of the tray. I want to get that conditioned, because it's going to be in a bathroom, so you never know. And then I'm just going to put the rope back in for the handles. I do end up changing this out, as you'll see in the finale. But you guys let me know what you think. Do you like the rope there better, or do you like the handles I ended up putting on instead? Let me know in the comments down below. So I got this picture here, and I like the bottom of it. It's got a nice texture to it, kind of like a concrete type texture. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the same color or not, but we'll see. And I'm going to go ahead and start by taping that off, and then I'm going to take the DIY Cottage color in Crockery. And the color to me just kind of reminded me of a coffee color, kind of like coffee ice cream. If you've ever seen that, that's what this color reminds me of. Okay, so I am going to take a couple tablespoons of the Crockery paint, and then I'm just going to pour just a little bit of that salt wash into the paint. And the salt wash is a sample size that Sammy had sent me, so thank you, Sammy, if you ever watch my video. But I'm just going to mix that up really well, and excuse me, I was really surprised on how much texture such a little bit of that salt wash gave. I usually use baking soda, and I usually have to use a whole lot of baking soda to get it this thick. So impressed here. But for the second coat, I'm going to go ahead and put that mixture all over it once again. And I ended up doing another half a coat, just touching up little bitty spots that didn't get quite covered the first time around with this mixture. And then it's the fun part. We're going to remove that tape and see how crisp those edges came out. All right, then I'm just going to take one of these I.O.D stamps in the La Campagne, however you say it, and I've got this little sheep here, and I'm just going to be using the I.O.D black ink, and I'm going to need a little practice. This, I don't know if I pushed too hard, put too much ink on it, but it's going to take me a little practice to get used to stamping. I just this year just picked up stamping, so I'm still practicing, but that's okay. It's just going to look a little rustic, I suppose. And then I'm just going to put that same image on both sides of this picture. So this is the first side, and then I'm going to show you the second side. And the second side came out a little bit better. So I'm thinking I'm just putting too much ink and pressing too hard. I think it's kind of a combination of both. So I'll work with that. But I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch my videos and keep giving me those thumbs up if you enjoy the video. That really helps motivate me and keep me going week to week. And I hope to see you guys on the next video. But here is the finale of this picture.